Hello and welcome to the Authority of Love. I'm your host, Greg Williams, joined by our wonderful co-host, Mr. David Walls of the Family Foundation for another Family Foundation Friday. Thank you for joining us. David, thank you for joining us again.
Good to be with you, Greg.
And I know we're in the season of Thanksgiving, so I got to say, first of all, not only for my wife, my family, and all those things, but my beautiful new granddaughter. She's cliche, I know, but growing like a weed, and it really is true. You see her 3 or 4 or 5 days later and she's gained a pound, or something like that. It's going, oh my goodness, her face has changed and all that, but she stays beautiful. So that's awesome. How about things with you, man? What's it look like for you?
Man, just a lot to be thankful for. Looking forward to Thanksgiving. I know the kids are looking forward to a few days off from school. Was talking with them about that last night, reminding them they'd actually forgot, and then they got all excited again. Oh wow, yeah, Thanksgiving's next week.
Yeah, it's amazing how that comes and goes with kids.
Yeah.
But I do want to say this. As we record this, we just found out that there was a bomb threat at Lexington Christian Academy, which will be yesterday when you're hearing this, as well as at Kentucky State University. So we'll probably know some resolution to that. Hopefully it's a very good one, but we're praying for that and ask you to do the same when you hear this about whatever's going on with that. David, there's a lot going on. And I know we talked about this last week, but there's a case here in Kentucky that they had a hearing on.
Yeah.
ACLU has brought an abortion case. Can you give us anything on that?
Yeah, as you and I talked about last week, the ACLU has filed a new kind of frontal assault on preborn Kentuckians. They are trying to get a activist judge, activist courts to invent a right to kill an unborn child in the womb, to strike down our pro-life laws, and so just continue to do all that we can as a team to stand for life and pray for our Attorney General's office, who's going to be obviously defending this law. But there was a kind of initial hearing this week on Monday, and I know two of our team members were there. Our friend Adia from Kentucky Right to Life, and just some other prayer warriors were there at the Jefferson County Circuit Court building. It's Judge Tracy Davis who is hearing this case at this point, and thankfully, there was nothing decided at that point.
Right,
we always get a little concerned because we've seen, not just here in Kentucky, but a lot of times, activist rulings that are activist judges that want to immediately put pro-life laws on hold or do things. So it was kind of just introductory arguments, no decision or anything yet. My understanding is I believe the next hearing will be January 3rd. And they'll be looking at the issue of class action status. And so what does that mean? So again, the ACLU is trying to kind of radically argue that this lawsuit is on behalf of all women, although sometimes they can't even argue the term women or don't want to use the term woman. And so we just need to continue to be praying for this case, and we really need to remind folks, and I want folks just to remember this as you think and pray about this case. The ACLU, those that are promoting abortion, are going to continue to make the charge that they're standing up for the so-called reproductive rights of women across Kentucky.
In this case, Mary Poe, right?
Mary
That's
Poe,
her name,
right?
Pseudonym.
Yes.
Right.
But we care about moms. We're praying for her. But this case is really more about baby Poe. There's a baby who is already alive in the mother's womb. She is a mother because she has a baby.
Two children before that, I think. Actually.
And so that is what's at stake.
Yeah.
The life of baby Poe and the life of all future preborn Kentuckians in the womb is what is at stake in this case. The media is not going to want to talk about that a whole lot. We know the ACLU and those that promote abortion want to pretend like there's not even a baby in the womb anymore.
Right.
Greg, you and I visited last week. Just one of the most appalling things that the ACLU, the term that they use in their lawsuit, refers to a preborn child created in the image of God as essentially contents of the uterus. Like it's no different than taking out the trash, emptying your pockets. And so we need to be remembering that. We need to be praying for baby Poe and baby Poe's mother. We need to be praying for the judge and everyone that's involved in this case. And Greg, I will tell you, we already need to be praying for our legislators and those in positions of authority, because I'm just telling you, we're going to continue to see pushes to try to undermine our existing pro-life laws. And we're going to need to continue to come alongside and encourage the pro-life majorities in the General Assembly to stand firm and to chart a path forward on the issue of working towards abolishing abortion in Kentucky.
And I want to go a step further with that emptying thing, David, simply because of this. And I said it last week, and I want to say it again for this reason. We need to keep this at the forefront of our minds, just how grotesque that phrase is. Because when we think of, you said emptying the trash or emptying a bin or something, think about what people talk about even in medical terms, emptying the contents of your bowels. I mean, what they're trying to do is make people think that this mother who already has 2 children, and we need to pray for her, but also for that baby, that life in that baby, we need to remember it's not just a byproduct. It's not waste. It's not trash. It is a life that has been given by God in His image.
As a blessing.
As a blessing. And yes, I say it in my book, The Authority of Love, which you talked about before. Children are the greatest blessing and the greatest burden all rolled into one. But in a fallen world, God has a great purpose in both of those. And you and I both know that with children. And I've learned to love the burdens, even when I didn't like them. And that's what we've got to help, especially believers, understand. But hopefully others will understand that as well. David, we got other things going on. We're going to come back to General Assembly in a minute, but you mentioned that. But we talked last week on this gender dysphoria issue about San Jose State and now bringing a lawsuit, I think, against the Big West Conference
Mountain
West Conference, right? And possibly even maybe the NCAA at some point. But that's continued. We now see it in the halls of Congress. These are adults that understand the danger. Why is that important?
Look, you're continuing to see conversations about Democrats and those on the left doing some soul searching after this election because voters, they were so out of step with voters, particularly on the radical gender ideology and the transgender issue being kind of front and central of that. And while they say they're wanting to do that, the reality is this is front and center in the halls of Congress right now because you had Representative Sarah McBride, who is a biological male who thinks that, unfortunately, that he's a woman and is dressing and identifying as a woman. There was some female members in Congress that wanted to make it clear that they're not comfortable with biological men using female bathrooms and trying to take some action to make sure that was clear in the restroom facilities. And this is, of course, has blown up, and you saw some pretty outrageous comments by left-wing commentators, including Jim Psaki, who said, this is just right-wing propaganda. It's not worthy of debate. Look.
They debated it like crazy when they was in favor.
Right. And this idea to continue to say that this whole narrative about saving women's sports is made up. Obviously, it's not. We got women standing up for their rights and having to file lawsuits, as you and I talked about last week. Look, Congress has every right to protect its female members of Congress and to make sure that they have common sense bathroom policies. But it's another reminder, Greg, if they can do that in Congress, we better darn make sure that we do that here at the state level and ensure that our students are protected as well. And as you and I talked about, earlier this year, right now we have a middle school being built here in Fayette County that is seeking to essentially do away with boys and girls restrooms under the guise. Really, it's the heart of it is gender ideology. And so this is a reminder, I think, of the need, even though we've passed a law to provide some student privacy protections in school, that was a part of SB 150, there's a lot that we still have left to do. No female student in Kentucky should ever be put in a position where she's having to share a bathroom facility with a boy or a man, Greg. It's wrong. And if we can point it out and everyone can rally and say this is wrong, in the halls of power in Congress, we better make darn sure that we do everything we can all the way down, even here at the local level. And so I think this is a big issue that the General Assembly needs to address. I think it needs to address that issue directly. And I think further than that, we need to clearly define what it means to be a woman and what it means to be a man in state law, and carry that out, because it's more than just bathrooms. It's more than just sports.
Oh, yeah,
this
absolutely.
issue, look, when you can't agree or you have people promoting chaos on something as foundational as male and female, it inevitably is a creation order issue.
Yes.
It spills into everything, Greg. And so I think, the debate that's happening, and I'm, glad that you've seen leaders of Congress, Speaker Mike Johnson, come out, very clearly
A man cannot
and say
become a
that
woman.
women-only spaces should be protected in the U.S. Capitol. I mean, these are common sense things, and we need to continue to push for common sense policy here in Kentucky as well.
I'll say two things about that, and we'll move on back to the
Yeah.
General Assembly. But I think any commonsensical, right-thinking person in their right mind would understand that. That's why the adults in Congress and the adults in colleges are standing up for their own rights to say, we don't want to be exposed to that. Why aren't we doing that? It's interesting. They are honoring a woman, calling it Mary Britton Middle School, while denigrating them by allowing men to come into their bathroom with them. That just doesn't make sense at all. So we need to be praying about that. As we do that case, I want to go back to the case. January 3rd, be praying that they do not give class status to Mary Poe. I think that's what we need to be praying for, wisdom to prevail and not happen. David, there's a couple other things going on we mentioned to keep in prayer at the Supreme Court. I think it's the Scrimetti case.
Yeah, that'll be on December 4th, so not that long after
Thanksgiving. Right.
That's the big case dealing with laws banning gender transitions on children. That's going to have an impact on Kentucky and the 23 other states that have passed those laws. Huge case. We've submitted a legal brief on that case. We've also are a part of a coalition that's just about to submit a brief in the case related to Free Speech v. Paxton that deals with online protections for kids from pornography. So two really big Supreme Court cases upcoming. So be in prayer.
And finally, you were encouraged by something that happened in the General Assembly last week.
I talked about the need to be bold, and we need to have bold leadership in the General Assembly. And so very thankful to see that two of the strongest pro-family conservative advocates in the Senate are now in leadership. So Senator Max Wise has been essentially elected. This will all be confirmed when they reconvene in the second week of January. But he will be the new majority floor leader, taking the place of Senator Damon Thayer, who didn't run for re-election. So very excited for that. And then our good friend Senator Robbie Mills will actually be the new majority caucus chair. So just look, it takes a lot of there's a lot of added work to being in leadership. So you've got President Stivers. President Stivers, there's multiple positions in leadership, but those were notable because those are the two new faces that you'll see in Senate leadership. So encouraged by that, and encouraged that the General Assembly needs to be bold this upcoming session.
Absolutely. Let me close with this, and I know David will agree. We're not going to broadcast next week. I'll have a series on Thanksgiving for the whole week, but remind us that as believers, Thanksgiving is not a day or a holiday. It's supposed to be a lifestyle. Philippians 4:4-7 says, "Rejoice always, and with any request you make it with thanksgiving, and the God of peace will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus." And 1 Thessalonians 5:16-18 reminds us to give thanks in all things. So I pray that you do that this season and at all times. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for your prayers. Thanks always to the Lord. Make it a great day in Thanksgiving season in the love and lordship of Jesus Christ. I'm Greg Williams with David Walls, and you're listening to the Authority of Love.